What's up guys, Derek here from DaseDesigns.com, and I'm back with another tutorial. In this video I wanted to touch on like embroidering hats, quote unquote, and how to like make your mock-up presentations look a bit more realistic. In my previous video I kind of focused on creating like a presentation like a presentation image that focused on like apparel, like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff. For this one I recently got a comment or a question on Twitter, and they wanted to know simply how to add this kind of 3D effect. I believe there's a close-up shot somewhere. Okay, I guess not, but it's on my Instagram page. I'll check that out really quickly, see if I can show you guys what we're kind of talking about here. So yeah, if you haven't already guys, be sure to follow me on Instagram at DaseDesigns. But yeah, so I'm just looking for this quick mock-up really quickly. Okay, so yeah, you guys can see in the close-up, it looks really realistic and kind of high quality. So I've done this effect by first off, I'm using a Yellow Images mock-up template. So I'll just go there really quickly. So yellowimages.com. I'm not sponsored by them. This isn't a sponsored video. I'm not getting paid to make this video or anything like that. I just really like the products that the designers on their website actually do. So I'm just gonna type in like hat. And again, you don't have to use this hat. You can use whatever hat you found anywhere. You could do like a beanie from some completely other website, or even if you have your own. But the specific template that I'm going to be using is this one right here. If you do decide to use this one, be sure to purchase the PSD mockup, because the JPEG image will do fine, but you can't edit the actual JPEG image the way you can the PSD mockup. So, but yeah, I do this in a lot of my presentation projects. So yeah, shouts out to all the teams that are in here. But yeah, here's like a super close-up shot. But yeah, I kind of do this with a lot of my hats. Just to mock it up, just like to give the viewers, just like an additional example of how it could look like in the real world. So I'm going to be doing it with this sabertooth pre-made logo that I have right here. So again, the first thing we're going to need is a mock-up template. I'm going to be using this one from Yellow Images. Secondly, we're going to need a super dope sports logo. Again, something simple, bold, unique. Make sure it's your own logo, or you could use another sports team's logo, as long as you're not trying to like sell it or whatever. It's completely fine for practicing purposes. So for this video I'm going to be using my own logo, that the sabertooth logo I made a while back. So, and again, here's like what the actual template looks like. So we're going to be recreating this. So we're going to be needing that, right? So the logo, and the next thing we're going to be needing is an embroidery texture. So I simply got this. I went straight to google.com, just typed in embroidery texture, and snatched one of these up. So the specific one that I'm using is this one. I actually went to, sorry, not Photoshop. I went to Shutterstock and actually downloaded this one. I'm not really sure why this page is in Spanish, but yeah, so this is a specific one that I'm using. I actually got it through their website. There's other ways you can go about getting it, but I won't be touching on that in any videos. Here's another good one that, never mind, that's not so great. So maybe this one would be another one, even though that kind of looks, yeah, that one would probably work. But yeah, so if you just like look at embroidered things, you can really just get a sense for the texture. This one kind of looks like it as well. The quality of the picture is like 400, so it's really small. No, that doesn't really look like embroidering at all. So like, yeah, like a stitched texture is kind of what we're after. I mean, this one would probably work, but this one again is the one that I'm using. This one could probably even work. But yeah, enough of that. Feel free to take whichever one you guys would like to use. And yeah, so we're going to get started. So I'm just going to hide this for now. So this is pretty much what our template will look like, generally speaking. Without the color, it'll be in like blue. So yeah, we want to open this PSD folder or file, and then we want to go to Adobe Illustrator. Make sure you have a vector logo just so you can scale it. As you can see, like if I scale it all the way up, it doesn't lose any quality. I'm going to scale it as big as I can. As you guys can see, it doesn't lose any quality at all. So Adobe Illustrator is extremely important. Another example, shrink it as small as I can. But yeah, as you guys can see, it doesn't lose quality. It doesn't use pixels. So we're going to copy our logo, Command or Control C, that's how we copy. Then click over to Photoshop, and then we're going to click above the template and then go to Command or Control V to paste. And then we just want to align it with the center of our hat or whatever we're going to put it on. For mine, I'm going to go about there. That's about a good size. Also with this template, there's also kind of like a sticker. So if you drop down the group right here. I'm not sure if it's called sticker or not, but there's an add design area. So it comes standard with just like a circle. I've added these circles just to kind of add some design, and then did 7 3/8 just for like a head size. So yeah, anyways, we want to paste our logo. Again, Command or Control V to paste that in there, and then push enter. And again, you can do whatever design, you don't have to do it. You can kind of ignore it if you want to. But yeah, make sure you copy the colors of your logo. So when you paste your logo in, push I on your keyboard and then click each color. So mine is black, pink, white, and gray. So now they're up in my swatches panel. If any of these panels aren't available for you guys to see, just go to Windows and then go about checking this specific one, like swatches I got here in layers. They're like the only two that I really use. So yeah, once we're done with that, we're gonna push the X, save it. And yeah, so I've changed some of the colors, you know, so I usually go to the parts panel for this one, and then just switch the colors. So I got like a gray bill, pink for the bottom of the bill, and then black stitching. And then I kind of did some adjustments with the stitching, but that's not really important. So yeah, so adding depth to the embroidered mock-up. So we could simply stop right here, but as you can see, it doesn't fit. It just looks like someone's, you know, just pasted a picture on top of a high quality hat image and called it a day. You know, that doesn't look professional at all. It looks really cheap, amateur. Looks like you didn't spend any time, you didn't put any love into it. So that's what we're going to be doing, adding some love, right? So this one is the one I did right before I started the video, and as you can see, it really fits in, generally speaking. You know, so if anything I would change is maybe make this black a brighter black, so something like this instead of like a specific black color. But again, adjust this to whatever fits for your logo, guys. So yeah, I changed these colors. Again, just simply double click on it and then change whatever color. Also make sure the eye is visible, that the eye is on. So yeah, I got my colors that I want. I'm just going to close the parts panel. I also don't need the highlights panel. The only one we need, well, we actually don't need any, you know, once we get done with that. So I got these made up. I'm going to call this one color, and this one is going to be called outline. So that's what we're going to be doing now. So I'm just going to expand the size of this until it's about the same size. And I got settings for all of these, so you can simply just copy the setting information and then paste it into yours. So yeah, this is great. So I'm going to use the color panel for so yeah, anyways, take your logo, Command G it, and then call it color, right? So yeah, we're gonna be focusing on this one for our color only. So now once we got our embroidered texture, we're going to, you know, to copy that, generally speaking, you can go back to Google, so embroidery texture. So yeah, wherever you get it from, just get it from somewhere, and then, you know, right click, copy image, and then that's how you copy it, and then paste it in here by Command V again. So yeah, Command V. I don't want to copy this one. I actually already have one. So I'm just going to copy it. So yeah, this is the one I'm going to be using for the color. So this one, standard, it's normal, looks like this, pretty much, excuse me, white. So one thing, whenever you get a like an embroidered texture, be sure to desaturate it so it has no color on it, because we don't need the color. Our logo has all the colors in it. So yeah, I usually put the first one on, what was it on? Okay, so yeah, the first one on overlay. Again, this is something you might need to adjust. Another option is screen. I didn't really like what it did for this specific color palette. So I put on overlay, and then also put it on 50 for the opacity. And then also make sure that the size kind of overlaps the whole logo design. It's fine if it over, you know, if it like goes over the logo design, as you can see. And next up, we're going to do is right click and then create clipping mask, and then now it's going to be clipped to our logo. So the next thing we're going to do is do the exact same thing, except we're just going to change it to multiply on 45. So again, as you can see, this is the same exact one. It's also clipped again, but I just put it on multiply and then 45. So what that does, it just adds on the white colors, it adds the actual gray. And as you can see, it's already there on the colors, but not on the white. So when you change it to multiply, it puts it on the white colors. So yeah, super helpful. Again, feel free to adjust these different colors and different logos. Like the settings on this one are a little bit different. It's from the DaseDesigns logo project. But yeah, so now we got the color out of the way. So next up, we want to add our bevel and emboss and our drop shadow. So this is the second important thing when it comes to like adding depth. So without this, it doesn't really work so well. So I'm going to copy these settings from that one, and then I'm just going to paste right here. So yeah, so now it didn't really do much, but you guys will see it adds a lot more in a moment. So here's the bevel and emboss settings that I'm specifically using. Again, feel free to adjust these. So yeah, these are the ones that I'm going to be using for this one. So yeah, feel free to adjust like the smooth and the depth and everything. So yeah, next up, we want to take our logo, go back in Adobe Illustrator, take our logo, whatever logo you're using. Hopefully it's a simple logo, otherwise it doesn't really work that well. So next up, we want to just take our outline. So for me, it's just all this black that you see. So I'm just going to Control or Command V to copy it, then go back into Photoshop, and then click above everything, so above our group, and then Command V. And now I just want to line it up. So these lines, these vertical lines on the left and right, I'm using that to align it. And now I'm just trying to align it that way. So yeah, now it's above everything. When I get rid of it, it's not perfect. Now it's about perfect. Okay, so yeah, you can't even tell the difference now. So now that we got that, we want to group that. So Control or Command G, and then call it outline. All right, so now the next thing we want to do is Command or Control, and then left click on our actual outline logo. So now that's going to select the black outline of our logo. Now we want to go to our colored logo. So if I was to just change this to colored logo. So now that we have the black logo outline selected and we're on our colored logo layer, we're going to simply push the delete button and then Command or Control D to deselect. So what that did is, as you can see, if I get rid of the other two, that just left us with our color. So if I Command or Control and then click, it outlines only the color. So that's all we have there. We're doing this again to add more depth. So now you can really see the bevel and emboss function coming into play right here. So again, without the bevel and emboss, it looks like that. And then with it, it adds more depth, that depth that we're really looking for. I forgot to mention the drop shadow settings. Here's the settings that I'm using. So just like 115 by 50, and this does change. It works perfectly for this black colored hat, but on a white one, it looked completely terrible. For example, like this hat was actually black, but now it's red and it actually doesn't work, so I'd have to change those settings. So yeah, feel free to change the settings to whatever fits best for you guys. All right, so back to where we are. We're going to be adding the outline portion. So yeah, as I previously mentioned, we copied our outline from Adobe Illustrator and then brung it into Photoshop and then added it, right above the actual outline that was in our original logo. So now what we want to do is add the same style and characteristics, again, of the overall hat and our original colored layer to the outline to get that, finished look to top everything off. So yeah, for this one, the settings are a little bit different. So I'm actually going to copy these settings. I'm gonna show that one for a second. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. That's what we're gonna be recreating really quickly. So again, I'm just gonna copy these, make this one visible, and paste it. So you can't really see much right now, but anyways, be sure to copy these settings. So the bevel and emboss, it changes a bit. Kept it on white and black, overlay 100, multiply 50 for the shadow, 500 depth, 15 size, 10 soften. Be sure to adjust these guys for whatever fits for the size of your logo, colors, and things like that. And then again, the drop shadow. This one is different as well. I really wanted a super small drop shadow, really thin. So I put it on 5 distance, 5 size, 35 opacity. And I put it on linear burn because it really works well with this pink color that I'm using. Alternatively, you could use multiply, which doesn't really look too great on this one, and then normal. Doing the normal setting sometimes can add like a grayish tint, or it just kind of looks gray. Like right here, that's kind of like what it looks like. If I get rid of it, it's gone, and then with it back. So I'm just going to be using linear burn for this one. It adds a little bit more darkness, and it works fairly well on colors, as you can see right up in this corner right here. So I'll get rid of it again. And now it's back. So yeah, again, keep it super thin, just so it doesn't ruin any of our white. So yeah, now that it looks 3D per se, we're going to be adding that same those same textures again. So this time the textures are going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be using screen, and it's going to be on 35 opacity. So I'm just going to simply click and drag mine up here. It needs to be adjusted. I'm only going to be needing 1 for this one. So I'm just going to click and drag it over the black. Remember, it's fine if it overlaps. So yeah, we can simply go to right click and then create clipping mask, or alternatively we can hold Option or Alt, left click in between our textured layer and the actual logo, and then that will create the clipping mask. So right now it's on screen 35. It looks horrendous. It's not even black anymore. So we have to combat this by throwing it on linear burn in 57. So what I've done is, copied the same actual texture, and then again thrown it on linear burn, and then put it on 57 opacity. So that still doesn't look correct, but we're about there. So how I got this, I'm just going to put this on normal and throw the opacity all the way up. I'm actually going to release the clipping mask of both of these and then put them both on normal. So yeah, as you guys can see, the one that's on top right here, the darker one, is what we're going to be using for linear burn. Remind me tomorrow. Okay, so these are the exact same texture, but this one is just darker, and we need that darkness, especially on the darker, for darker colors, like the outline is usually black, or like, dark colors like dark blue, for example. So yeah, we need this one to be darker. So we got our lighter one. This is going to be used, for the screen beneath it, and then the darker one for the top. So how I got this one to be darker, I simply created a new layer, push black in the swatches panel, Alt or Option, and then delete. And this blacked out our whole screen, our whole artboard, but we need that. So I'm going to get rid of that one. So anyways, now that we got that, now we want to create a clipping mask to the one that's going to be screened. So we want to create that clipping mask to, and mine in this case is this one, the brighter one. So it's the same one that I used to add the color, to add the the texture to the colored layer. So the original one. So yeah, we're going to create the black shape, and we're going to create that clipping mask. Again, feel free to go up here, and we're simply going to throw it on overlay. Bam. So now we got that, and as you guys will see, they're exactly the same now. So that's what I did. Without the overlay, that's the normal one that I started with, and then with the overlay, it gives us that proper colored one. So before you actually combine these two layers, be sure to copy and paste the original textured layer. So you can simply hold Option or Alt, click and drag below, and then we have 2 here. So as you can see, boom, now we got 2 now that I copied that one. But anyways, so yeah, be sure to copy that down so you still have the screened one, the one to use for screen. So yeah, I'm going to, again, it was on linear burn, but first off we got to combine these 2 layers. So we simply Command or Control and then click, and then we want to do right click on the layers, and then we want to it should be here somewhere, export. I think if you actually Command or Control E, yeah, that creates one layer right there. So Command or Control E is how I did that, how to combine the 2, so the black overlay and then the base layer, and then bam, so we got that. So now that we got that out of the way, again, I already have mine, so I'm actually going to duplicate this and then do that. So yeah, you don't need to do that, but make sure they're in the exact same position. So again, whenever you copy yours, don't move it around with regards to moving it like this. Just make sure they're perfectly over top of each other, as close to perfect as you can make it. So yeah, again, our bottom one, for this, I put it on screen and then 35. So again, I'm gonna throw that on screen, 35, and then again, create that clipping mask above our outline logo. Whoops, outline logo. So yeah, now this is what that looks like again. And then the linear burn for the other one, for the darker one, I'm gonna put it on linear burn. And I can't remember what the opacity was. 57. I actually did it multiple times on that one, so I'm gonna put it on 57 for this one and throw it on 100 to see what happens. Okay, so yeah, I actually changed that to 100, and now that looks super duper crisp. that linear burn layer. So this is without the screen, and we need the screen to brighten it up a bit. So yeah, first we got the screened layer, now we got the linear burn layer, and that just makes it so crispy. Look at that, it's ridiculous. So yeah, this is the, let me get rid of both of these. So this is kind of like what I started off with. Now you'll notice it's brighter in the top right corner and darker in the bottom left corner. Now I've done this to stay consistent with the mockup template that I'm using. Specifically this one, again, our light source is in the top left corner. That's the brightest part of our object. And you know, usually wherever our light source is, the opposite side of that object is going to be the darkest. So our hat kind of curves. So this side, you know, so think of like a cylinder. So this side will be the darkest. As you can see, it gets dark here over the brim on this side. And then there's also a nice little shadow already included in this template. I'm just going to leave the background white. So yeah, now I want to get rid of these two original ones that I have. That's just me. But yeah, so keep your you know, your outline and colored groups here. So now one thing I'm actually going to do is duplicate this one. Duplicate the linear burn. Again, make sure that it's clipped. And one thing I wanted to do was lower the opacity. Duplicate it and then lower the opacity to something like that, because it's super crispy again, but I might need to darken it up a bit. I'm just going to leave it how it is for now. I think by adding our shading and highlights, that's really going to help. So now I'm just going to create a new layer above our outline, and then again create that clipping mask. Push B on our keyboard. We're going to be adding some lighting and shadows. So again, my specific light source is in the top left corner. I'm going to be putting a brush on that side. So if you want to hold Control or Option or Alt and then left click, this is how we can increase the size, decrease, and then also increase and decrease the hardness. I put mine on 0 hardness and then like a pretty huge size about that big. So I'm just going to click over here. Again, make sure you have white selected, and boom. So now I just pushed 2 brush strokes right over there. And that did a fairly decent job. So I'm going to bring this down to about 5. For this, it's really about keeping it subtle. Maybe 15, and then I'm going to hold Option or Alt and then right click and then duplicate it and then create a clipping mask again and throw it on overlay. So yeah, that's with this is without it and this is after. So for me, these are a bit too big, so I'm actually going to push eraser, push the E on my keyboard, and then erase some of it on this side. I don't want it to engulf our whole logo design. So yeah, again, very subtle, but it will add a lot, especially when we add this the shadow and shading. So we want to create a new layer. Click this button down here, and then how I did that was by clicking on a group. When you create a new layer, it automatically goes beneath anything that is clipped already. So we want to push the black color on our swatch, also push B on our keyboard. Make sure you're on your shadow layer, and then again we want a nice big brush size. I'm going to actually decrease the sizing a bit and then just kind of brush it over here, so you can't really see it. So it might be better for me to release the clipping mask just so you guys can see what I just did. So yeah, this is what I just created. If I recreate it again, create a new layer, and then just go like this. Again, my light source top left, or sorry, top right, so my shadow is going to be usually on the complete opposite. So bottom left for me works. Now I want to create a clipping mask. You can simply go up here and create it. I'm going to bring it beneath our shadows, and I'm actually going to add some more here. And now this didn't really do much, or it did a little bit, but I want to throw it on overlay and see how that looks. Okay, so the overlay worked really well. I'm going to bring down the opacity to about 50. And again, now it kind of flows a bit better. As you can see, it's really dark over here on our hat and then really bright over here. So I might want to increase this overlay layer of the highlight a bit brighter. And again, that kind of fits a bit better. And I actually want to increase the normal because it begins to get gray on our hat, so we want to replicate that. So I'm going to increase the normal layer to about 25, decrease the opacity, or sorry, the overlay opacity to about 50. I'm just adjusting right now because again, I want it to be super similar to our hat. So that looks about right. I don't want it to be perfect, but that looks pretty good. And now I kind of want to decrease our shadow layer. Darn it, go away. So yeah, our shadow layer, just want to decrease the overlay to the opacity to about there. I'll leave it on 35 for mine. So now we're going to be simply doing the exact same thing for the colored layer. So what we can actually do is simply hold shift and click, or we can just simply hold command or control and then click each layer, hold option or alt once you have all those selected, click and drag, and then drag it beneath the outlined group, and then make sure it's above the color group so it's not in a group. And then we simply want to create clipping mask, and now you'll notice it's clipped to our colored layer. So if I hide those and then show them, you'll see it really added more realism here. So I'm actually going to decrease the normal. I might just get rid of the normal overall. Yeah, so for the colored one, I don't really need the normal overlay or the normal light source. I'm just going to leave our top one that was on overlay. And then there we have it. I'm actually going to decrease this to a bit. And then I want to increase the shadow. I'll put that on maybe 50. See what that looks like. For me, I'm going to try 75. And yeah, that looks much better. I actually want to add the brush tool and then bring a quick little burst of black up here. So yeah, now that looks pretty good. And then here's our overlay. So one thing I could actually do is increase this multiply, or I could actually take the black, the darker one that I created the overlay for, and then use that instead. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that is ridiculous. I'm gonna try 5. Okay, so 5 looks fairly good. Wait, it looked good a minute ago. I think it was like 15. Okay, so 15 looks pretty good, I feel like it might take away too much from the white. So yeah, this is the multiply on 50, and then this is the linear burn one. So linear burn actually looks pretty good too. Okay, so they're actually not in the same angle, so that's why it's looking that way. But anyways, I'm just going to leave it as is, as I had it when it originally started. And that's pretty much it, guys. So yeah, the next thing to do would be to add like a nice background or a backdrop or anything like that. Alright guys, so yeah, just to finish off this video, now that we got our logo mock-up looking all nice in 3D to really fit with the actual mock-up itself, I'm going to create a quick backdrop image just to, put it in its own space to make more sense. So I'm actually going to use my gray color that I used. Let's see what pink looks like. Whoops, I'll delete it. So that looks okay. That really kind of brings out the pink. The gray looks all right. So I'm just going to use this one. So now that we got, I created a new layer, push whatever color you want in the swatches, again, option alt and then delete. And that gives you the color that you just selected for your foreground color. So I created a new layer above that. This one is currently empty. So now I'm actually going to just simply create a gradient or a vignette. So I'm going to go to the layer that we just created, the colored layer. And now I'm going to push Control or Command T to kind of like edit that actual layer. And then I'm just going to click and drag out our rulers just so I know where the center is. And again, go to Window, and then be sure to check whatever needs to be checked. Get your rulers. It's simply Command or Control R, and that's how you get them and put them away. So with our new layer, I'm going to click black in the swatches panel. Push G on your keyboard for the gradient tool. Whoops, I did not mean to do that, but I'm not sure what just happened. I'm just going to go with it. So yeah, we want to get this one foreground to transparent. So make sure your foreground color is black, and then it will work. So yeah, now that we got that, I'm going to push G again on my keyboard just to make sure, and then I'm going to use the reverse setting, and then make sure you're selecting this one right here so it creates that gradient from the center outward. So when you have it on reverse, it looks like this. So the center is transparent, the outside is where our color is. So now I want to erase some of this. So I'm going to push E on my keyboard for the eraser tool, increase the size, and really just get rid of some of this because it's a bit ridiculous. So yeah, that looks kind of good. Now I'm just going to bring down the opacity to about 15, 25. 25 looks pretty good. 35 looks kind of good too. I'm just going to get rid of this little bit right there. Now I'm simply going to command or hold Option or Alt, and then click and drag, and then duplicate that one. And again, just like before, I want to throw this one on overlay. And this really adds more saturation to the color instead of, with the normal, it just adds kind of like a blackish gray, and it looks really dull and dingy. So we're going to put it on overlay, and that still adds that darkness, but as you guys can see, it adds more saturation. It keeps the color nice and live. It continues that energy, with the color, so it's not so dull. And then next thing I want to do is make sure to bring those to the top, so it also adds a little bit to our hat. Alternatively, you could simply just leave it in the background, so beneath the hat layer, and that looks all right. I might want to decrease the normal to about 25, and then go back to our overlay layer, push B on my keyboard, and then increase the size, maybe add it about here, something like that. Computer's lagging a bit, so hopefully the video isn't lagging. Alright, so I'm just going to keep it here now before my computer decides to have a heart attack. So I created a new layer right above the shadow layers for our background. Push white on our swatches panel to give ourselves the color white for our foreground. Push B on our keyboard to get that brush back, and I'm actually going to increase the size as big as possible. I just want to swipe all the way across because, again, my light source is top right, yours might be different. So wherever the light source is on your hat mock-up, make sure that the background and everything you add to it fits. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the top right corner and add a burst of this white color. So I think my computer is lagging again, so this really sucks. But anyways, when this loads up, I'm simply going to decrease the opacity and then do the exact same thing that I did before for our background. So yeah, as you can see, we got that quick burst right there. I'm going to Control T it and then increase the size to about there. That looks good for me. So now again, our hat is black. So when you think of black, this is black right here. But on the top left side, it begins to get gray. That's not because of what we just did, but because in real life, light brightens colors and it also adds, more white to it. So instead of it just being a completely perfect black hat like our logo here, our original logo. So for the background, add that highlight layer, and then I'm going to decrease the opacity to about 15. Then I'm going to hold Option or Alt to click and drag, and then change that to overlay, the second layer. And again, that adds that saturation back. So yeah, that looks pretty good so far. We could go about doing more things. And I'm not sure about this. When I zoom in, it looks perfect. When I zoom out, it's not the best. I'm gonna leave it how it is for now. But yeah, that's pretty much how we add more depth, more realism, more life. That's what we want to do, guys. Add more life to our portfolios. So let's go back to mine. So yeah, this is all kind of taken from this project and many of the projects that I've done. By simply adding, more texture, more life, more love to these mock-up templates that are already super dope. It just takes our presentation and just our business and our portfolio to the next level. So yeah, guys, if I could recommend anything for you guys, is be sure to invest in yourself, invest in your services, invest in your craft, man. Whether it be through knowledge, like watching YouTube videos, taking courses like from Skillshare, Udemy, any place, take courses, gather knowledge, learn from people who have been doing what you want to do for a long time, and then apply it to yourself, to your business, to your work, to your craft. And also be sure to invest in dope assets like this specific hat from Yellow Images. Shouts to them. Again, not a sponsored video. Another great website would be creativemarket.com. These are the only two that I use, so they're the only two I'm going to talk about. But yeah, they got great mockups on here too. So again, guys, investing in yourself is always a great option because it really says a lot about you and how much you actually care about the work that you're doing. So yeah, guys, I figured this would be a time to kind of mention I'm actually in the middle of making a logo course for you guys when it comes to esports logos, mascot designs. So if you want to learn more, like a deep dive course about how you can do all of this stuff that you're basically seeing on my screen right now, what we talked about, be sure to stay tuned and also check the description. As time progresses, it will be released very soon. So if you are interested, be sure to stay on the lookout. Otherwise, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, the content, and it has been helpful for you guys in some way. So yeah guys, Derek here from DaseDesigns.com, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care. Peace.